Friday, November 16th, 2018, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. This morning I want to talk about divide and conquer, which is something I've spoken about before, and how I think the powers that be, financial powers that be, political powers that be, are trying to keep us at each other, be it in the UK with Brexit, be in the US with the red wave and the blue wave, with the trade wars internationally, and even in Europe as well with migrants and populism. And that strategy, in my opinion, is just an excuse to keep us not focused on the real problem, which was the crisis of 2008, the fact that our banking system is completely a zombie system, not only in Europe but the US and other Western countries. The fact that our monetary system is broken, it's based on nothing and thin air. That the banks are running everything, even though they should have, failed and they shouldn't have been bailed out in 2008. So I want to talk about that because there's a lot of coverage right now, especially in the UK, about Brexit, how it's ruining everything, but it's just a scapegoat. And I'll put also a link below in the description of a video by Real Vision, and I'll put it up in the cards as well. And it's an interview with Stanley Druckenmiller, one of the most successful hedge fund managers in history. He's worth over $4 billion, and he talks to Kirill Sokolov. It's a long interview, but it's worth listening to. And he says the same thing I've been saying, that they fixed nothing in '08, that they tripled down. They're doing what they did prior to the crisis of '08, but to the nth power, and that things will get very ugly once they unravel again. So, and we need to keep the spotlight on the real culprits. It's not foreigners, it's not left or right, it's the people in power, the politicians, the central bankers, the monetary system. Before I go a little further into the situation here in the UK and the divide and conquer aspect of it, I'll look quickly at the markets. It's 8:42 a.m. This morning. So yesterday the stock market finally rebounded a little bit in the US after dropping about 900 points. In the beginning of the week, the Dow rallied 208 points, 0.8%. S&P was up 1%. NASDAQ Composite up 1.7%. This morning, spot gold is trading fairly well again. We've gotten up to 12.1850 overnight. Right now we're at 12.1620, up 3. The low has been 12.55, which I suspect now that 12.12 level is a support. Used to be a key support a few months ago, key resistance a month or so ago when we broke out. So yeah, and above, I guess, 12.25. I haven't really looked too much into what the upside is there. Silver is up 4 cents, 14.32. The high's been 14.37, the low 14.25. The Dow is up 10 points, 25,300. S&P is down 1.5 points, 27.28. NASDAQ 100 futures down 30 or 0.5% at 68.60. The pound is up 50 pips or 0.4% at 128.20. So it has rebounded a little bit, and I'll talk about what's happening in the UK in a minute. Euro is up 0.25%, 113.53, and the dollar is down against the yen 0.25% at 113.32. Dollar is up 0.15% against the Chinese yuan at 693.85. Oil prices rebounding. I think we got almost down to 54 handle in WTI. Right now we're up 1.4% at 57.40, and Brent is up 1.5% at 67.67. Bond market 10-year yield is slightly lower. It's at 3.11 compared to a few days ago. The 10-year Italian yield is at 3.47. That's 3.45 now, down 4 basis points. So Italy, yeah, things haven't been solved there politically and budget-wise, and we need to keep an eye on it as usual. So what's happening? I made a live stream yesterday talking about Brexit. Loads of ministers resigned from the cabinet yesterday, but it looks like Theresa May is holding on. The Telegraph says Theresa May faces battle to save her premiership amid threat of fresh resignations. So she's hanging on. She doesn't want to give up or give in, but there's a lot of criticism. She says she's going to go on, but it's questionable whether she'll be able to hold on to power. And right now, the pound has rebounded a little bit, and that's what I wanted to talk about. All these fluctuations in the pound because of what's going on with Brexit doesn't mean that the drop in the recent years or in the last 10 years in the pound is because of Brexit. That's what I wanted to point out. They want you to think that all the economic woes in this country are because of Brexit. But, I'll show you this chart of the British pound. Ever since the '08 crisis, look what it's been doing. When the UK banking system almost collapsed, the pound collapsed from above 210 to the dollar to 135. And it's been, there has been ups and downs, but the trend has been lower. Look at since the referendum to leave the EU, which led to Brexit. Yeah, the pound has gone down, but that's not what caused the initial huge drop in the pound, the debasement of the currency. And why have they, the powers that be, why are they doing this to the currency of the country? Because they can control the currency by raising interest rates, by inflating the currency less. Well, because the whole crisis of '08 that they had to save the banks. And how do they do that? Well, they bail them out by incurring trillions of pounds of extra debt on the UK taxpayer. And there's there's two ways that the state can debase its currency in order to make that debt more sustainable and more carryable, so to speak. One is to default, legally default, which they don't have to do because they can keep printing the money and the debt, and the banks will happily keep playing the game because they get the fees. And the other one is just to let the currency inflate the currency away so that that becomes worth less. And that's what they're doing, and that's why the economic situation in the country is not great. That's why only the people with a lot of wealth in the city of London, who shouldn't really have all that wealth because they should have gone bankrupt in '08, they keep getting richer because they know how to protect themselves against that. But the average Joe on the street might know how to protect himself or herself, but they don't have the wherewithal. Their wages are still really low, but the cost of living has been rising and rising. And their currency has been becoming worth less and less. And that's what people need to understand. Inflation is not caused by higher holiday prices or higher bus fares. Inflation is caused by the amount of debt or fiat money that's put into the system. And that's what's happening into the UK. It's got nothing to do with Brexit. It might have some short-term implications for the currency, but you can see that the trend for the pound is down. Does it mean it cannot go up in the short term a little bit? No, of course it can go up, but the overall trend, as you see there, to me looks further down, and it looks like 110 could be a target for the next 12 months or so against the dollar. Does that mean that the dollar is a great currency? No, the dollar, the U.S. has the same problem. What do you think they did in '08? They bailed out Wall Street. Wall Street and Mr. Blankfein and Mr. Diamond, they wouldn't have the wealth they have if it wasn't for the U.S. taxpayer. The dollar has held up because all the other fiat currencies are even worse. But you can bet that in the long term, the precious metals will outperform the dollar. And the U.S., it's the only way for them also to carry the debt is to make it worth less against tangible goods. So yeah, don't let the mainstream media, the powers that be, put you against other people. Don't let them divide and conquer you. We need to focus on the real problem, which is all the debt, a fraudulent monetary system that they haven't fixed or reformed since '08. Everything else is just a distraction, so they can, lay the blame on something, on another person, and not on themselves. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, share it, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. You can also follow me on Steemit, DTube, and on Twitter. I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye.